Our last panel, Connected and Secured. I'm honored to invite the moderator, Dr. Leonid Bakman, founder and president of Israel Innovation Institute, Asaf Atzmon, director at BizDev Product Marketing, Automotive Cybersecurity at HARMAN, Hagen Wiesner, EVP Group Operations at Faurecia, David Barzilai, co-founder and executive chairman at Karamba Security, and Moshe Shlisel, CEO and co-founder of GuardKnox.
Okay, guys, hi. Just very short question to make sure that we're not missing our audience. How many entrepreneurs in the audience, more or less? Policymakers? Others? Okay. So we'll start with a short round of introductions, and we'll try to take it from there.
So you asked me to introduce myself. My name is Hagen Wiesner. I'm the COO of Faurecia. Faurecia, a small company, 17 billion euro sales, tier 1 automotive supplier, active in 3 business groups. One is exhaust systems, which is actually converting more to battery, fuel cells, etc. pp. And the other 2 business groups are related to interior. One is dashboards, door panels, the other one are seats. So, and in this regards here, we are working very much in we call it cockpit or interior of the future, where we think about what can the passengers and the drivers in the future do in the car, and what do we have to do to protect them in the interior of the car, to make that a good experience, and at the end, that you as a driver or passenger feel better when you came out of the car after a 2-3 hours drive than before you entered, because we were able to detect the physical data, to detect via sensors everything, to analyze that using artificial intelligence to predict what is the right actions to do. So, and therefore we are here today to look for partners, to look for companies to work with us. On one side, obviously, on the sensor technology, on the other side, on the health side, on the wellness side, and last but not least, because this is one of our main issues, on the cybersecurity side. And next step, we are installing here in the next days a so-called tech hub, where we want to bundle all these activities around sensor development, sensor technology, and around cybersecurity in our tech lab here in Tel Aviv, which is a partner tech hub to other tech hubs we have in the world, which have other dedicated focal topics. Yes, and I'm happy to hear. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm David Barzilai, Executive Chairman of Karamba Security. Karamba does cybersecurity for automotive, as all of us here. We launched the company 2 years ago, March 2016. Since then, we are working with 17 different OEMs and tier 1s. We raised $24 million. We were recognized by Gartner 3 weeks ago as the cool vendor for cybersecurity for IoT. The innovation behind Karamba is that we didn't look at the car as a small data center on wheels. We look at it as an array of IoT devices that could be hardened against changes in a way that makes sure that you have zero false alerts, that is done automatically without delaying time to market, as well as by preventing the attacks, the hackers out of the car and not after they get into the car.
Thank you. My name is Asaf Atzmon. I'm heading the business development for the Automotive Cybersecurity business unit within HARMAN. The Automotive Cybersecurity was founded 2.5 years ago when HARMAN acquired startup TowerSec here in Israel. Since then, we've been basically the centric body within HARMAN to deal with everything related to cybersecurity for automotive. That includes both promoting our portfolio, which is called HARMAN Shield. It's an end-to-end intrusion detection system for vehicles, embedded software, as well as back-end components. In addition to that, we're also heading within HARMAN what's called the security development life cycle, which is basically process and guidance to make sure that HARMAN and every automotive product produced, like head units, digital cockpits, telematics control units, they all follow a strict process, making sure security is built in and designed within the life cycle of the product.
Hi, my name is Moshe, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of GuardKnox. We are all coming from the Israeli Air Force, where our team is the one that provided the cybersecurity solutions for the Israeli fighter jets, the F-15, F-16, F-35, and the missile defense systems, the Iron Dome and the Arrow. So we're not coming from the IT world. Our solution is based on solutions that are dedicated for moving platforms. There's a huge difference between a computer and IT devices and a moving platform. I'm willing to go technical, but we'll leave it out right now. Our unique approach is that we are providing several layers of protections with several solutions, several family solutions. We are hardware and software. So at the end of the day, we are the only one that complying cybersecurity standard, not just safety standard that everyone in this panel probably is doing. So while someone is talking about the cockpit of the future, we really understand what a cockpit is.
Thanks a lot. My name is Leo Bakman. I'm the founder of the Israel Innovation Institute and entrepreneur. I think that we'll take the next 25 minutes to try and understand two things. Where the market goes in terms of cybersecurity and connectivity, of course, and what is the best way to work on this opportunity. I wanted to start this session with a high-quality documentary movie. The only problem is that it's a technological conference and we cannot use YouTube. But basically what you can see here, or can't see here actually, is a massive hacking of cluster of many cars in the middle of Manhattan. Take a look at, you should use this link. It's Fate and Furious 8. Don't make a mistake. It's not 9, 9, 10. It's specifically 8. Pretty cool part because it really makes the idea. You can see there a terrorist sitting on a high building and actually hacking huge amount of cars, and the rest is history. But basically, to try and understand what is going on here, we started this conference by saying that if, 10 years ago, cars used to be 10% of software and 90% of physical assets, so in many ways it's starting to change. And in this element, the cybersecurity become a really, really big issue. In parallel, you can see that the cost of attack is dropping dramatically. So if 10 years ago, we have experienced things like StackNet that were like a nation-state initiative and cost like huge amount of investment. Today, you basically can look on non-petya stuff that hampering dramatically physical assets and literally cost nothing. So this gap between cost of attack and impact is huge today in general, and it's just getting bigger as we go with digitalization of these platforms that we are calling cars. And around these things, basically, we would like to try and have the discussion. So, Mr. Wiesner, I think that it might be a good opportunity to understand a bit from your side where the market goes, and after having, let's say, first vintage of companies coming with solutions, where are the real needs, or if you want, the unmet needs, in, let's say, in a time frame of 3 to 5 years ahead?
So first of all, I can say, when you would have seen Faurecia 3, 4, 5 years ago, you would have seen a company which is doing injection molding, welding, manual assembly, etc. pp. And when you would have seen our discussions with our customers, these discussions would be exactly around that. Now we are converging to a company which is more talking about the complete interior, which is talking about customer experience in the car, which is talking about measuring with sensors, with cameras, the data of the passengers in the car. So we have a sensor which measures the heart and breath rate of the customer, where we want to send data outside in the cloud, assess this data there, use their apps, use their assessment to make something with the data. And with all that, we see that we are now, with our product, with our solutions, far more confronted with cybersecurity questions. And we obviously now, in the discussions with our customers, are confronted with the same questions. But how do you want to make sure that these private data of the individual, of the person, is protected? What do you do there? So obviously we start with that, but to be honest, on a scale from 0 to 100, we are at maybe 10 and not more, and that's the opportunity for us to do that. This is one aspect. The other aspect is I'm responsible for 240 sites, which have some machines there, which where we collect data, send the data in the cloud. We have 500 injection molding machines where we collect all these data, assess these data, use artificial intelligence, and want to inform the plant what to do with that data. And now we have again a cybersecurity problem which affected us, or problems in regards to that affected us a lot. We have maintenance guys, external, coming with their computer, coming with their USB stick, etc. So another part on the product side and on the process side where this is an enormous problem for us.
Great, thanks. Asaf, you used to be a startupist, now you're sitting in a tier 1 as well. What can you see in terms of speaking with entrepreneurs and trying to talk about the market?
Yeah, this is true. I think we're not the only one that have seen this cycle, and I think to a larger extent it's one symptom of the overall maturity of the market. I've been talking to OEMs for almost 5 years about the topic, and I think the first 3+ years were clearly kind of experimenting. There's new technologies, maybe foreign to that industry in many ways. They wanted to see that the technology works, and we've been there at the right time with our technology, same as other companies, just to push the market. I think we're seeing other things now. I think they're starting to realize first that they cannot ignore the topic. They'll have to put budgets. Nobody's going to pay them for this budget. They're just going to have it like they're doing for safety. And that I think, they're starting to see new kind of challenges. Some of these challenges are around visibility, meaning, for many other aspects of the vehicles, they have invested a lot to know exactly what's going on in terms of the vehicle health, in terms of how people are using their vehicles, but they're pretty much blind when it comes to potentially people messing up with their vehicles. And I think it's clear that they have to have more and more visibility about what's going on, and the vehicles are connected, so it shouldn't be a technical issue here. And I think the second thing is that they're starting to realize that they also have to have aspects of remediation. So, knowing things are going wrong without any kind of means or capabilities to fix it is obviously a very frustrating position. And all of that basically means that you cannot have a point solution. I mean, there might be some point solutions that are part of the bigger story, but you really have to have a very comprehensive solution that allows them to look at cybersecurity challenge in a very broad manner across both ends of the spectrum.
Cool. David, I think that, looking on the IT environment and the IT maturity cycle in terms of cybersecurity, you can see a maturation process that starts with one-size-fits-all solutions, diversifying to specific vectors, and then trying to kind of combine to a bigger platforms that can allow effective organizational processes. So after the first vintage of the companies that already starting to work, starting to implement different solutions, where are the needs that you see that the current companies and the current platforms are not covering, that actually you would sit in front of entrepreneurs and say, guys, the opportunity are there and not in the conventional stuff that let's make sure that the car is secured?
So there is an analogy, and the interesting thing is to see how the automotive industry is, although it's a very slow by nature industry, in cybersecurity there's kind of like an accelerated move, obviously for its standards. And that is starting with internal processes to make sure that they develop security, if there are some issues that should be surfaced before the code goes to QA and then goes to production. And then came the other, I would say, wave of saying, okay, let's monitor. Let's see what's going on in vehicle and how to alert ourselves if there are issues. And then, as Asaf indicated, came the next wave of say, let's talk about remediation. What we see now, and since that, and there is kind of like a buffer, a delayed buffer between coming up with resolutions until those resolutions are being rolled into production. So now we are seeing those intrusion detection going to production and remediation definitely going to production. What we are seeing coming up as requirement is two things. One is prevention, and the other to put the OEM in control. Because on one hand, tier ones deliver the solution, but on the other, the OEM is accountable. If there is any liability matter, first, OEM is under the magnifying glass of the regulator and obviously the public. And not only that, but also according to the regulation and to the US administration, the OEM is responsible throughout the life cycle of the vehicle, way after tier one exhausts warranty period or stuff like that. So what we see now coming us very strongly is OEMs want to get data, both in terms of the detection as well as in terms of the prevention, and the ability to make them much more proactive before the attack hits them. That's, I would say, where we see the next wave coming.
Moshe, looking on this slide, we're investing like industries generally invested billions of dollars in security already. Now, what is the real differences between IT and, as we used to call it, OT security, in terms of why can't we just take these solutions that we already have and put them at place, just squeeze them into the car?
Because it doesn't work. No, real. For example, we are, in our third patent, we already got granted 3 patents. In our third patent, we are using cybersecurity as a fundamental approach in the vehicle. Cybersecurity, by the way, is a philosophy of designing, not just a buzzword. So when we're designing, we are helping our customers design their architecture and their solutions. We don't think that cybersecurity is something that should come and they should pay for that. Because with using our solutions, for example, we are giving our partners and customers the ability to have new revenue streams because, as you, sir, mentioned, data. Our solutions, our platforms have onboard secured storage and onboard secured processing that using our security core, and by doing that, you are able to collect the data, you are able to do number crunching, and eventually use the data in order to get new revenue streams. So if you're comparing a vehicle to a fighter jet, it's much more resemblable than while you're comparing a vehicle to a laptop. Laptop has infinite number of messages and protocols, and a vehicle has certain amount of close and finite group of messages. If you know how to deal with the fact that you have the entire knowledge, which can be updatable every now and then, if you know how to use a certain methodology that you lock this messages in the vehicle, then you're giving a hard time to the ones who are trying to hack it. This is the way fighter jets are being protected. So one should decide whether he wants to use something that protects our laptops, where Alt Control Delete are the most used keys, or methodology that you protect fighter jets. You cannot just park an airplane outside, get out of it and say, okay, I'm being hacked, I cannot do it, or just reset it. So the way you approach it, the fact that a car is the smallest area in the world where all our loved ones are gathered. This is a car, the smallest area. So what do we prefer? To use a methodology or technology that, yes, have some faults and is not related 100% to safety, as in using as safety as an augmentation, and so the security is augmenting safety, or something that really related to safety, and on top of it gives the tier ones and the OEMs new revenue streams.
So the need is there. It's a specific niche. It's not something that we can export from other worlds. And now, what are the market drivers? Because, you know, cybersecurity is a cool thing as long as we're sitting in Tel Aviv. We really like talking about it, both ways, as attackers or as protectors. But it's not really creating value. I mean, you know, guys, it's not contributing to your down. It might reduce risks, but it's certainly not generating revenues. And in the industrial world, it's very, very hard to push solutions that are not creating revenue and that are not driven by a very strict regulation. So where the market goes, I mean, what would be the real market drivers that I as an entrepreneur have to look for to make sure that I won't die waiting for something to happen?
What are the market drivers at the end customer? I think we see more and more that the end customers are driving what needs to be done. We see a far higher level of individualization. And first of all, I have to say, we see that more and more in our industry, the interior will be one of the biggest differentiating factors of cars. It's not, there were companies that said it was the powertrain in the past. They were proud about their strong powertrain or less consuming powertrain. That will be less and less the case. A big part is the interior, where you as an OEM will differentiate from the other OEM, and what features could you offer to the end users in that, which is obviously safety first of all. But safety now with a different spectrum. You are not constantly sitting like that in a car. You are doing different things, and they nevertheless have to realize safety features. When you see where today your airbag is, as a driver, it is in the steering wheel. When there is no steering wheel and you move your seat to the side, how do you solve that? So as a first and basic thing. But then up to app-related services about wellness, about motion sickness, etc. These are, from my point of view, more and more features that end consumers, very individualized, expect from you, from us, to develop. We think we can do that because we have a lot of competencies, but we don't have all the competencies. And as we don't have all the competencies, we look for partners to help us. So we work with companies like ZF for the safety. We work with companies like Mahle for climate control. We work with startup companies on cybersecurity solutions, because this cybersecurity is, at the end, for me, something which is overall. And nobody should see it and nobody should feel it. But it's something which we need. You should have done it, period, nothing else. But let's focus on what are the individual customer needs, and be able to adapt our solutions to the individual customer need.
Great. David, another pick on the market drivers, and let's go to the process part.
So market driver?
Yep.
First of all, you were very correct. It's very difficult to price cybersecurity. And that industry is so much nickeling and diming, and every component is measured by cents. So how would you justify it? It's a big deal. And we are seeing several approaches, but one approach is some OEMs say, okay, I need to relate to cybersecurity as an arch-arcing kind of overall offering, like better batteries. So I have a different bucket for cybersecurity. It was applied intentionally and now divided among the various vendors with regards to the layer solution. That's one driver. But the driver that we are seeing actually is the ability to reduce cost. And this is pretty astonishing for us. Our model is actually a sister company to Asaf's company, that's Redbin. And we love them. Here came a company, also from Israel. Obviously now it's part of HARMAN. They came with a new offering. That offering was directed at the OEM. That offering required extra cost, and it needs to be justified. And we are creating now the value in terms of the ROI. And as a matter of fact, so last night there was a report published by Keen. Keen is Tencent Research Lab, the hackers of the Chinese Tencent. They declared BMW a Swiss cheese. They found about 14 vulnerabilities, 14 security bugs across Series 7, Series 5, Series 3, the I. Now what? So the idea is that if you are unlucky, like Chrysler, then such attack results with a recall. One bug, a recall of 1.4 million cars, here goes $140 million.
So basically you have to take fear and put it into ROI model.
Or, if that fear comes to reality, how much it costs you.
Okay.
But I think if I can comment to that, I think these are small issues that if all of us are patient enough, nobody is going to talk about them in few years. I think, nobody asks what are the market drivers of wheels, right? I mean, the car is the market driver of wheels. You can't drive if you don't have wheels. I think in the same way, you will not be able to drive. Nobody will buy a car if they think they might be hacked. And I think the good news in many ways are that things are only going to get worse. Because as you look at, you talked about the ratio between electronics and mechanics, which I think is probably at least 50% right now. But I think it's even growing because what really matters is the cyber physical space. What are the functional aspects of the car that can be driven by software? And obviously, if you go to automotive driving, it goes to 100%, right? I mean, the car will be driven by software. And in the same way that you cannot imagine having a software which is hackable and even making it worse, hackable with the real safety issues, the same would be for automotive. And I think OEMs, it just takes time. They're working very slow. They have to figure out the processes. They have to figure out the structure of the purchasing and where to bring the budget from. But at the end of the day, just like at the end, they have to put seat belts. And you're not coming to the dealer and they tell you, do you want the option of seat belt? It will cost you extra $50. No, I mean, it's built in. The cybersecurity will just be built in. And whether you're a startup company, whether you're a big company, if you have a solution that fits the requirement, you'll be able to generate revenues around that.
So basically what you're saying is that beyond fear, we need patience, which is good. Now, I'm a startupist. We have very, very short time, so short answers, please, with your permission. I'm a startupist. I understood that I have a good idea. What should I do?
Go to the T1s.
Cool. Moshe.
T1s.
Come with a great, neat technology that shows that the trends of the industry is met, like customization of vehicle. If you ask me, eventually vehicles and cars will be like smartphones. Well, we need to allow drivers to customize the vehicle. So if you're complying to the trends of the future, you'll get notice from tier ones and OEMs. Because eventually the one who write the requirements are OEMs. And in some cases, tier ones are coming with new innovative approach. And I think that Faurecia can elaborate on that as well.
David, 1 minute. What should I do?
Agree with Asaf and with Moshe. Start with validate with tier ones, but OEMs write the check. OEMs write the spec. But there's one thing which is really horrible for a startup in that industry, and that is the patience required. Patience means money. And that means, so if I quote Micha from Valens, the panel, 2 panels before, it took them 6 to 7 years until they generated real revenue. That means you must, as much as you can, raise as much money as possible. You need to, that will buy you the patience to stick around and kind of like serve the industry with its own pace.
Mr. Wiesner, what should I do?
The question is not what should you do, the question is what should you do afterwards.
Yep.
Because the first step is always easy. We have events like this, we have startup pitches in Silicon Valley, blah, 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 blah. That's easy, and we are impressed of what you show us. It's wonderful, it's great. And then nothing happens. And that's the typical problem. And it's us, it's our responsibility there. So the tier one responsibility, or the OEM, most probably that's the same. And there, what we installed is we installed a part of our company, or a group takes care of venture capital. We created a group that takes care of startups to internally motivate us to go on with that we don't block that. And I think here you have to help us. You have to step on our feet to motivate us, come back again, and at the end, what you said, need patience. That's right.
Guys, unfortunately, we have no time for questions, so if it's okay with you, just dedicate a few minutes for following questions after the panel. And thanks a lot. It was a pleasure having you.